Hi there, welcome to Wyckoff Technical Analysis session for Dogecoin. If you're new to my sessions, here are the key takeaways you can expect from my sessions. So let's start with the weekly chart of Dogecoin. Here we're looking at a week where the price finally break below this white dashed line of around 19 cents 60, and only 6 hours and 45 minutes left for this week's candle. It seems like it's going to close somewhere around the current level. However, is this the end of it, or is there any chance for the price to rebound? In previous sessions, we talked about we are seemingly going to see a test period in terms of Wyckoff accumulation cycle before the price comes back up to show us either a back of a last point of support period or prior to that another sign of strength. Okay, that's around the orange key level of 30 cents before it can go further up to challenge the levels from the yellow all the way to the light blue or even further. And we talk about that we hope to see the buying climax to, if it happens this time, to at least challenge the light blue key level of 47 cents. That's where the December 2024 buying climax was. So we don't hope to see a declining peak situation, which means the long-term investment or speculative value of Dogecoin is declining. Fortunately, the previous two rounds, the one back in 2021 to the one in 2024, it was lower in 2024, but then it's not too crazy compared to some other altcoins. This peak here was a bit discouraging back in the beginning of 2024, but then it ended up pretty well at the end of the year. So this time, if this accumulation cycle finishes and we eventually get into a new distribution cycle, finger crossed, let's hope to see this 47 cents peak reappearing. Not that it's a must for that to repeat, but like I said, we want to see that to happen in order to have better confidence in terms of the long-term value of Dogecoin. Before getting to the daily chart to see any breakout timing indication, let's quickly check the Bollinger Band and Keltner squeeze. Here, we continue to see the squeeze going on. According to my own way to determine whether a squeeze has started, I would consider that started sometime in June already. Basically, the momentum has been building since then. But according to the coding or the definition of this indicator, it started just 4 weeks ago, beginning of October. So after a squeeze, what tends to happen is that the price will go through a period of bigger swing, much like what happened over here exactly a year ago, sometimes in November 2024. That time, it gone up first and then came back down. So this indicator doesn't tell us which side the swing will start first. Sometimes it can swing to the lower side first before it goes up, like what happened over here. Okay? So when you use this indicator, be careful not to misunderstand it. Okay, let's get to the daily chart while we are on the squeeze indicator. And same as the weekly, the daily has also started squeezing. So I guess I have mentioned in last session, because whenever I see the purple lines getting closer and closer towards the orange, I always mention one thing. In a daily chart, it can happen very quickly in 2 to 3 days, and indeed it happened. And then we're 5 days into the squeeze, so expect some fluctuation to come for Doge. After the indicator, let's get back to the daily chart Wyckoff. So the chance of coming down for a selling climax, I would say is still, I'm still keeping this, and actually I would bring it up a little. And the reason is this gets to 40. This few days, the past 3 days, So if we look at the volume bar, the one on the first day, this decline, was the highest. It was around 29 million, and then the subsequent 2 days, both were like below 15, basically half of what happened on the 30th. So these climb weren't really very strong. And then today we see another kind of undetermined situation. There were some buying from the bottom, but also some selling from this level. So we are reaching a level just to find support where we see this kind of plateau, or this support line over here that extends from the previous like October 11th, just the post tariff day, and then the subsequent test to the bottom. So essentially, if the price continues to stay above or around this level, the first time point that the breakout would happen, it's sometime between now and Thursday. Okay, so because there's a triangle that's formed by the ceiling of the downward channel, and also the recent, this fresh nil support line over here. So in only a few days, we're going to see another test whether the big guys are going to push the price up. If not, it's not something surprising, because we have been in this downtrend since over here, September 14th. So if it continues, it basically bounces off or travels along this ceiling of the blue box. So when that happens and it doesn't go like break outside of the box, there is another line over here. That's the center line of this yellow box. So here you see the selling climax back in June, and then a bunch of backup or last point of support transactions over here, and also similar period, but this time that was the support for that same period. This time was about almost like the resistance or some kind of intermediate area. So that is another timing, the second time point within the 10 days period that I mentioned in the title, that if the price really drops from there, that's the second occasion where Doge can potentially break outside of this downtrend. Okay? Of course, if you say, well, what if it bounces off from the ceiling and like breaks below even the center line? That can happen, and there are multiple supports over there. One is this long-term playground zone. The white solid line is the bottom edge of the long-term playground zone, meaning for 70-80% of the time, Dogecoin was trading since 2021 within this area. As of now, that still remains a very strong support line. And then the second one would be this yellow box bottom. That's where the spring touched on. It did not close over there. Okay, let's zoom in what happened exactly in April, just this year. I'm not talking about very far in history, just roughly half a year ago. You see the bottom edge of the long-term playground zone, this white solid line over here, right? So the spring, back in April, the lowest point, it's way outside of the white box. So there's like, I think, over 10% difference, or close to. Yeah, somewhere around 9% difference from the bottom edge to the very tip. But then you see the next 2 days. Both days tested below the white, but both closed above this white line. So that's a very strong indication. Even this second test back in late June also showed that this support could likely hold. One caveat here, however, the October 10th event kind of break all these support lines, not until it reached this blue line over here. That 1 cent, or sorry, 1 cent is 10 cents line. This 10 cent line is basically this particular period, and these peaks over here. We have to go back all the way to the accumulation cycle of 2023. in order to find this line. Okay, so there are 3 lines of support before the price can really, if you're saying it's going to go to the low of 2022 and 2023. Not that it happened even on October 10th. So unless something even bigger is being announced, otherwise these 3 lines, the white, the yellow, and the blue, should provide sufficient support for that to happen. Okay, for that, I mean for the price to stay above those levels, even if it's going along this downtrend. Alright, if it really comes, these are potential bounces area. Alright, I think, yeah, we touch on those 2 time points. These still further down the line, but they are still within November. Okay, you see November 21st over here, if the price continues to trade over here, and then November 24th, and eventually this one will get into December, and we'll have time to cover that if that really happens, if the breakout doesn't happen sooner. So we hope to see the breakout to happen. Just that earlier this year in June and April, both came down to the white line, so that's why, combining the volume that I see, I'm still keeping this selling climax somewhere around the white line. That may still happen. Okay, so that's for Dogecoin today.